So I'll open up with a poem before I bring Rachel up here. If you believe in these young people, say I believe.
I believe.
If you believe in yourself, say I believe.
I believe.
If you believe that what we're doing tonight matters, say I believe.
I believe.
Ha. All right. I believe too. I believe in the power of words. I believe in you, and I believe in me. See, I believe our words have the power to set people free. I believe the things that we say can change them, those, and they to us, these, and we. For you see, when we use our words responsibly, they have the power to teach, to build, even heal. The words that you say can put wings on everything that you can think, dream, or feel. So man, woman, boy, girl, never forget that your words can and will change the world. If you believe that these 5 young people have some words that can change the world, say, I believe.
I believe.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for oh, go ahead and clap, come on. Yes. And I don't do that for my own gratification, but there's something called social expectation theory. We kind of expect when we hear something like that to clap. So it lets us all collectively connect to each other and have that moment. There'll be some times we'll laugh together, we'll clap together, we'll sigh together. We may even cry a tear or two together. And I say, let's not be too careful that we don't connect with one another. I think that's probably one of the problems we have out there in the world today. Everybody wants to be 100% right, and everybody wants to be 100% separated from everybody they think is wrong. But sometimes you got to be in the same room with each other, feel the pulse, laugh together, clap together, connect, and we're going to move forward step by step, word by word, as we build bridges through our communication. So with no further ado, I want to bring up to you, as I said, my boss for the night, an instructor in communication, but also the mastermind behind FayTech TALKS. This is the second annual one. She spearheaded the first one, and she has been a great leader on this second one. Please welcome Mrs. Rachel Rion.
Good evening. Thank you guys for bearing with our technical difficulties. It would not, what do I tell my students? Always plan for plan B. Your visual aids will not work, right? So good evening and welcome to the final round of the second annual FayTech TALKS speaking competition. My name is Rachel Rion and I've served as a communication faculty member here for 3 years, and this is the second year that I've been involved in FayTech TALKS and the first year that I have been the primary director of it. Is the mic working okay? Is the mic working okay? Okay. Okay. Tonight we'll hear speeches from 5 exceptional public speaking students enrolled in our high school courses through FTCC's High School Connections program. Though many of us in this room are undoubtedly a bit biased, we know that communication skills are critical for these students. Critical for the success of them as they move on to college in the next year or two, to their careers, and to be full members of a democratic society. Public speaking, especially in the educational setting, is often looked upon with fear and trepidation. I can't tell you how many community college students I've taught through the years that told me it was their last class that they had to take to graduate. Taking it early is the best thing. You have less fear, right? You haven't built up all those defenses yet. We ought not to forget that this isn't something to fear, but the right to speak publicly and freely is both a privilege and responsibility in our society. Our students tonight have embraced this privilege, but also taken on the responsibilities and duties of a good public speaker, not only to speak with eloquence, but also wisdom. A match that Cicero said was very important in his writings on rhetoric, to not just be an eloquent public speaker, but also a wise person. To speak with eloquence is perhaps the easiest part of the challenge, but to have wisdom, an ethical compass, an understanding of your audience and the various roles that they fill in society, and to meticulously present research in a way that illuminates rather than obfuscates the truth is the mission of true rhetoric rather than mere rhetoric. Tonight, our 5 contestants will speak about topics that concern them, that have piqued their interest, but also have larger cultural significance. They each were selected as one of the top speakers in their section of public speaking, and they competed with their informative speeches in a semifinal round to earn a place to present their persuasive speech tonight. Our finalists are May Lynn of Jack Britt High School, Nolan Pate of Village Christian Academy, Rachel Lynn of Jack Britt High School, Selah Apollo of Jack Britt High School, and Emily Schaefer of Massey Hill Classical High School. Let's give them a round of applause for reaching this round. After all of our students deliver their speeches, we'll take a brief intermission while our judges deliberate to determine the FayTech TALKS champion. Then we'll reconvene for an award ceremony and some photographs. We'll have 3 awards to present: the champion, who will win a $100 prize, the runner-up, who will win a $75 prize, and 3 finalist awards, each with a $50 prize. To determine our winner, we have a panel of guest judges: Dr. Kenwana McCrae, Dean of Arts and Humanities at Fayetteville Technical Community College; Dr. John Edwards, Associate Professor of Applied Communication at Methodist University; Dr. Todd Frobish, Chair, Department of Communication, Languages and Cultures at Fayetteville State University. And joining us again is Shania Dantes, our 2022 FayTech TALKS champion and Terry Sanford High School senior. Additionally, this year we've introduced a new Audience Choice Awards, as I'm sure Dr. Kelly's already told you. When you walked in tonight, you should have received a program along with your voting card that displays the names of our 5 contestants. When we reach the end of the speeches, we'll ask you to circle one speaker. This is where I'm going to ask you to follow directions and pay attention. The cards will be collected and tallied, so make sure you turn in your card at the right time too. Don't walk out with your card later. And that winner will receive a $25 prize, and that winner is decided completely independent of any of the other awards given. So it could be our first place winner, it could be one of our finalists who doesn't win first or second, completely independent, because we know that all of us want to have a voice. That's part of what public speaking is about. Without further ado, I will bring back Dr. Kelly to the stage to introduce our contestants and get us started.
Thank you very much. Rachel, I'm actually going to grab those notes from you because I might use some of that stuff there. I do want to take a moment. Do you have, is there a,
What do you want?
just give me whatever that I had in there, because there are a couple things that I had some notes in. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. I'm speaking extempore. Well, I first want to take a moment and thank the leaders from the school. Well, first of all, Rachel is a great leader, and she is so gracious as to have given me a list of people to make sure that I think. Thank you very much. Oh, pow, they're there right there, because as every good leader knows, nothing is done on your own shoulders. We've had a great team. We're really grateful. We want to make sure we don't miss anybody. But I did want to ask, if you're a parent, a meemaw, a peepaw, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, will you please wave your hand? Thank you for bringing these young people here. Your gas money, for being audience members for them and rehearsal partners, etc. For all those who are leaders at the school, we have 3 schools represented here today. We have Jack Britt High School. So anybody from Jack Britt, I know that. All right, thank you so much. We have, is it Cindy Anderson? Oh, every once in a while. Cindy Anderson from Jack Britt, thank you for being here. We also have from Massey Hill Classical, Rachel Andrus. There she is. Rachel, good to see you. And Rachel, forgive me for the awkward looks I've been giving. Like, I know her, because I know you from the website. I'm like, I know Rachel. So thank you very much. And Rachel's actually taught one of the students here tonight and is the assistant principal there. So Cindy and Rachel are assistant principals at their respective schools. Any representation from Village Christian Academy tonight? That's the 3rd school that's represented. Well, we got some folks wearing purple, partly for Military Child Month, but also partly for the colors of Village Christian Academy. So we want to thank those who are part of the different schools across this community for investing in the young people. This particular competition included hundreds or over 100 students from across Cumberland County, public schools, private schools, home schools. So these young people have really accomplished something tonight. And of course, they accomplished it with the help of the people in this room. So we thank you for that. And of course, our FTCC faculty who have been teaching them, we're very proud, but also I want to just toot our horn a little bit and say, we spend the extra hours working with these students, office hours, rehearsal, just checking into them, celebrating them whenever we can. And we are so grateful that the work we do matters. And this is an evidence to us. So thank you all for showing us that we're actually teaching you something and you're learning. It really encourages us. So want to just say a big thank you to all of our FTCC faculty members. And we also want to I won't try to say all their names because they're not on the room right now, but I'm going to go for it. We got Kaney, we got Kenny, we got James, and of course, put professor in front of all these. You got Leslie, you got Brenda, of course, you have Rachel, you have Dr. Dwarka Ramphal, Dr. David Nays out of the room, and myself. So we're grateful to be part of the team, but also Kaney Hunter, Mrs. Kaney Hunter, instructor here, Queen of Hunterville, as we say in her classrooms, is also the graphic designer that designed the logo that you will see, and that all of our speakers will have T-shirts of, and you've seen on the screens here. The FayTech TALKS logo was designed, as well as some of the cool little prizes we've given. So you'll also see on your program that was designed by one of our Renaissance scholars here. So we do a lot of different things. And we also want to give a shout out to Dr. Dwarka Ramphal. I mentioned his name earlier, but Dr. Dwarka Ramphal is our department chair, or our program coordinator, we call it here. And he gives us such freedom to reach out to these young people and be innovative. This kind of thing happens when leaders say, okay, try it. And here we are doing something that's so unique and that will be a great boost on your resume, and sure, a little money in your pocket, but most importantly, it's so empowering to us as faculty members, to you as students, and certainly to your community here to see you speaking boldly your truth and your understanding and your research and your scholarship. So Dr. Dwarka Ramphal, I just want to say thank you, sir, for giving us permission. Giving us permission to be great, and of course, he's been given that permission from our dean. We're so grateful for Dean Kenwana McRae, who is from the first day that she stepped into the office, she said, you have an idea, you want to try it? Let's try it. And she has not said no to us yet. As long as it's legal, she has not said no. So a round of applause for our dean. Thank you very much. Dean of Arts and Humanities. We could not do this without the FTCC Foundation, Sandy Amons and her team, so we want to say thank you to them. They funded our printing. They funded so much, our snacks for our speakers and for our judges, et cetera, and thank you for making this happen. The FTCC Library printed the bookmarks. You've also got, of course, the bookstore. You'll see some information about them out there, but we got some T-shirts made, and they actually printed those for free for us. So William Parrish and the FTCC Library, not the library, the bookstore, please support them. Go get some swag. There's actually an FTCC speech shirt that you can get. So when you're on your respective campuses, you can be like, I went to FTCC too, Trojan power. And we will want to thanks to the FTCC Toastmasters. They've got volunteers here tonight. We see Katie, we see Jesse as well representing our Toastmasters here. We're starting a chapter right here on campus. You have to be 18 to participate, but you can be at any level in your education, and it's open to helping people to really learn how to speak better and be empowered. They'll share a little something later, but they've come and they're helping out. There's information on the table about them. We also want to thank our High School Connections team. Thank you for anybody who's in High School Connections. Will you raise your hand? I see you, my people, yes. Thank you, their fearless leader, Malcolm Pace, and his twin brother. I see you here, sir. Good to see you. Let's give a round of applause to High School Connections. In case you didn't know, we teach these classes on campuses at school, we teach them here, and we teach them online. And High School Connections literally keep us all connected to these students. They help us to make sure we meet the students where they are so that we can love them for who they are, not who we want them to be, and then we can lead them where we all need to go. So thank you all for the doing the yeoman's work in that effort. Herding high school students can feel like herding cats, but it actually can be very fruitful when you stick with it the way you all do. We also want to thank the FTCC High School, the Gene, will you stand up, please? Gene Oglesby, this young man, is our alternate. He was ready tonight. He was like, I'm in the wings. If you get sick or something like that, I'm ready. So Gene is here actually ready to give his speech if and when he is needed. Thank you very much. Everybody's going to be good. We're good. But we thank you for being an alternate, for being ready, and for being excellent. Thank you, Gene. Thank you. Gene, what is your high school?
Jack Britt.
Okay, so Jack Britt got a preponderance tonight. And we would not be able to come in here and do all the stuff we do without a few people. First of all, we want to give a shout out to housekeeping. If you're in earshot, let's give a shout out to housekeeping. And of course, our AV team that is nimble and quick and can work with all of the mixing and moving parts. We want to thank Joe, who's here tonight, but also we've got a team that's recording here tonight. We've got Colton, we've got Natasha doing the audio and the visual, making sure that it's all on point. So let's give a big shout out to our AV. I'm thinking HVAC because, we teach HVAC here. We teach welding. We do it all, right? And so we're grateful to them. So I think did I get everybody? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody because this was really important to Rachel. And it's important to me too because, listen, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So y'all have a lot of people who've been caring about you all semester and have put all their effort and energy into hearing what you have to say tonight. Nerves aside, we'll all be nervous. I'm a little nervous now. It happens. Just use that energy to bring what you know you're called to bring. And then have some fun while you're up here, all right? So, in that case, with no further ado, I'm going to bring up our first speaker. Our first speaker is May Lynn from Jack Britt High School, home of the mighty Buccaneers. And as Malin comes up, I'll tell you, Malin is a junior. She's a lifelong artist and a lover and enthusiast of all things blue, an enthusiast of blue ink. And she also hopes to become an astrophysicist. So please welcome this star child, Malin.
Thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. But before I start my presentation, I wanted to let you all know that one of my slides has a few flashing images in bright colors. So if you have a photosensitive condition and you need to duck your head for the first minute or so, please feel free to do that. A great fire burns within me, but no one stops to warm themselves at it, and passers-by only see a wisp of smoke. Written by Vincent van Gogh. What makes something art? And what exactly makes passers-by look at the fire, if not the wisp of smoke? Art is defined as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. It is human nature to challenge every frontier of being in a way that we can write as new or innovating, and most times we succeed. But what happens when we stress the boundaries of something so human, so raw and fundamental as art itself? To no one's surprise, we have, and we've done it already. AI art, one of the most divergent developments of technology seen to date, able to generate thousands of pieces with just a few prompts written on your computer. And just like that, we've industrialized art in a way that matches the automobile industry, churning out hundreds of thousands of pieces of lifetimes in just a handful of seconds. It's undeniable that AI art is revolutionary in the field of technology. But what it's proving itself to be in the artistic world is a thick cloud of smog, smothering the flame described by Van Gogh to be his passion and ambition to build lifetimes in the ripples of his paint. Tonight, in my presentation, Taking Shadow as Substance, we'll be discussing the true value of automated visuals in the field of art. As an artist myself who has dedicated countless hours of priming, refining, defining my work, I'll be guiding you all today through the ethical dilemma of artistic automation, the impact of artificial intelligence on our future artists, whether AI art is truly art, and what we can do as the individual to ensure that the value of human passion is not lost among the waves of AI synthesis. As difficult as it is to abbreviate something as intimate and raw as art into a simple definition, the most common interpretation describes it as a visual object or experience consciously created through an expression of skill or imagination. But before we ask the question of whether AI art humbles itself to suit the criteria of this definition, let's discuss the other implications of this technology. More specifically, what does it mean for our fellow artists? And what could it mean for art? Contrary to popular perception, AI art doesn't synthesize images out of nothing. In fact, in order to build an AI art program, it must first be trained with previously existing visualizations and pieces in order to tweak, twist, and meld new images to fit the requested prompt. But where do programmers get these images? From the hands and brushes of our very human artists. But you may beg the question, how do we know this information? How can we trace the origins of pieces so distorted beyond their original appearance? And the answer to this is actually quite simple, and it's a tradition we exercise daily to mark the presence of our individuality, the signature. And the slides behind me are numerous examples of this phenomena. These images are all AI-generated portraits, and if you look closely, you can see the remains of multiple signatures in their classic placements, hidden in the corner or above a figure, nestled strategically between details. These images were first distributed by artists on Twitter before being published in an article by Art News in December of 2022. But in addition to this clear proof of human origin, Benjit Edwards on Ars Technica in December of 2022 reported a website tool titled Have I Been Trained?, developed specifically to dig through the databases of AI programs. This tool revealed countless pieces collected from online platforms such as DeviantArt and ArtStation, all of which were used in programs such as Lion 5B to generate portraits like the ones you see now. But theft isn't the only issue pervading the conversation of AI art. As all automation does, it deprives thousands the opportunities of potential jobs. Carla Ortiz, who has worked for Ubisoft, Marvel, and HBO, stated in 2022 in an article published by Kotaku, AI does yield results that will be good enough for some. Because the end result is good enough, I think we could see a lot of loss of entry-level and less visible jobs. This would affect not just illustrators, but photographers, graphic designers, models, or any job that requires visuals. Essentially, the bricklaying support purposes that many entry-level artistic opportunities serve are at risk of replacement. Instead of hiring a human artist for their work and experience to create concept work or sketches, the company could simply outsource to AI and generate thousands of images, many of which are derived from stolen pieces and are taken without consent from the original artist. And the issue is that we, as a collective whole, are still struggling over the boundaries of AI art and what it entails for copyright purposes. Are the momentary efforts of a string of code manipulated by an individual eligible for a copyright? Are we legally able to compensate those whose work was stolen and used in the efforts of automating one of the most integral forms of self-expression? The truth is, at this very moment, we can't say. And what many artists, including myself, find ourselves concerned over is what it could mean for the value of human passion that is created through years and years of practice and attention. It happens that this concern brings me directly to my next consideration. I'd like to direct your attention back to my slides. What you're seeing now is the process of one of my own personal pieces from the very start to end. You're considering hours of work, 2 weeks worth of extending my arm with a piece in hand and wondering exactly what shade of color would best suit the blue of the magpie's wings. And as written by Kibben in their paper titled, "What Makes Art Art? Reflections on the Core and Definition of Art," beauty does not equal art, and art does not necessarily equal beauty either. Rather, art is something made with intention and purpose. Entering a handful of prompts into a software does not reflect intention. It does not articulate years of work, hours of contemplation and creative plight to adjust the composition, the shades of blue, keenly keeping track of exactly how much blue is in your brush to capture the finest details. It's vital to remember that art, just as any form of human self-expression, is ameliorated and refined through hours, through days, months, years of practice and attention and love. Art is a reflection of human conscience and experience. AI art is not reflective. It is mere replication. As we near the end of tonight's presentation, I'd like to summarize the content we've discussed. First, we've learned exactly how AI programs work, how they synthesize images, where they draw data from, and the clear human origins of the images these programs manufacture. We've discussed the impact of AI on the art industry and what it could mean for the future of our young artists. And lastly, we've discussed and considered the qualifications of AI art as true art. But during our considerations, I realized that there is a fairly simple and intuitive solution to our plight. Neither artificial intelligence or automation are leaving anytime soon. In fact, they are already well entrenched with our conditions. But we need to change how much exactly we value these mimicked renderings of human experience and sentience. But what can we do as individuals to challenge these creative circumstances? We can adjust the very basis of what makes art so invaluable: the interpretation. Art is valuable because we determine it to have value. We decide that the value is in the piece's conditions, its story, the intentionally chosen material, the form, or the color. We can recognize the marvel of programming AI art softwares are, while simultaneously respecting the intricacies and faceted nature of human art. And that is the purpose of this speech: to encourage you all to recognize the limitations of AI art and to ask that you not assign it the same weight or influence as one would to a painting or sculpture. Admire it as an advancement of technology and not as a surrogate for one of our most integral forms of artistry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mei Lin. Thank you very much. I want to make sure I said that correctly. She is a blue ink enthusiast, just in case that was a particular term, if anybody can connect. A blue ink enthusiast, and obviously a wonderful artist as well. Our next speaker today, as we prepare you, is a freshman at Village Christian Academy, home of the Mighty Knights. This person is a man with a plan who likes to work with his hands. I like rhyme, you know that. And one thing I asked him when I said, what do you want to be when you get older? When you don't say grow up because they're teenagers, you know. When you get older, he said, I just want to build things. I like to make a plan, follow it, and build things. I like to work with my hands. Please welcome to the stage, Nolan Pate.
When I turned 13 on January 25th, 2021, I gained access to social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. Now, in order to create an account for these platforms, all I had to do was enter 3 key things: a username, a password, and a birth date. It was very easy. Now, I knew that social media would be a great place to connect with family and friends and really anybody. But as soon as I started using social media, I realized what a dangerous place it could be. I saw instances of cyberbullying, and I saw hate comments on several posts. Now, this new experience in my life raised a question in my mind. Why should young teens such as myself and my friends be exposed to such a dangerous environment without any sort of preparation whatsoever? Now, I've owned social media for over 2 years now, and I've witnessed firsthand the dangers that social media poses to young teens. You finally fixed your hair this morning. That is a comment that was written on a post on Instagram for a teenager. Now, this comment might not seem like a big deal to you, but to a teenager that has insecurities, a comment like this can ruin their self-esteem. Now, although social media is used widely and legally among adolescents, access to social media needs to be heavily regulated due to the physical and emotional dangers of social media, and because existing protections are not adequate enough to fit young users of social media. Now, there's 2 reasons that social media should be heavily regulated. This is emotional harm and physical harm. Emotional harm can affect somebody's mental health. Cyberbullying is a great example of this. Cyberbullying is basically when you use an electronic device such as your phone or laptop to bully somebody. It's very easy because you can do it behind the safety of a screen. You don't have to worry about your victim's reaction. You're not going to see their face when you bully them online. Now, according to Collins, in a book called The Social Media Revolution, published in 2021, 37% of people between the ages of 12 and 17 have been the victim of a cyberbullying attack. And according to Abby Joud, in a Canadian Medical Association journal published in 2020, cyberbullying can result in low self-esteem, stress, anxiety, and depression. Another mental harm that social media can cause is FOMO, otherwise known as the fear of missing out. Now, according to Abby Joud, when teenagers are away from social media for too long, they can begin to feel like they're missing out on something. And this doesn't just relate to teenagers, this relates to everybody. FOMO can cause a bad addiction to social media, stress, anxiety, and depression. Now, when you're affected mentally, it can affect your physical health. An example of this would be lack of sleep. Abby Joud states that social media usage among teenagers is related to lack of sleep. And lack of sleep can cause stress, anxiety, and decreased quality of life, just to name a few. Secondly, social media can cause teens to commit acts of self-harm. According to Abby Joud, social media makes self-harm seem way more normal than it actually is in reality. And most devastatingly, social media can cause teens to commit acts of suicide. According to Memon et al. In an Indian Psychiatry journal published in 2018, suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth. And according to the CDC, just recently published, these numbers of suicide among youth continue to rise, especially since the pandemic. Now, there's hope. Let me explain. North Carolina was the first state in the U.S. to implement a 3-stage graduated driver's license system. Now, to you, this system may seem, it relates to when teenagers go through driver's education, when they go through a time behind the wheel with an instructor, when they get their permit, their after nines. That's what this system was. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in this graph, this blue line on the graph represents young teenagers and the percentage that makes up deaths and fatalities in car crashes. In 2011, young drivers made up 42% of fatalities in car crashes. In 2020, this number had lowered to 37%. It dropped 5 points. Now, this may not seem like a big decrease, but we're talking about thousands of teenagers, and every life counts. Also, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, these programs have been shown to reduce deaths with car crashes of young teenagers by 50%. Now, in order to own a driver's license, you have to get the proper certification and training. In order to own a social media account, all you have to do is enter a username, a password, and a birth date. Now, just like driver's ed has been shown to reduce the amounts of deaths regarding driving, a social media education plan will lower the amounts of suicide and depression regarding young teenagers. A social media education plan would teach teens how to safely use social media, how to recognize the dangers of social media, how to react in the event of an online threat, and how to react in the event of a problem. How can you help? The biggest thing to do is to raise awareness on this topic. Our society needs to know the impacts that social media can bring to teens' mental health. You can also go to kidshealth.org to learn how you can teach teens and students how to face the dangers of social media. Social media and driving are both here to stay, and both of them have very positive benefits as long as they're used responsibly. The stats don't lie. They tell a disturbing tale of increasing rates of depression and suicide from teenagers using social media. Now, this isn't the first time that our country and our youth has faced a problem like this. When our country faced a problem with death rates rising from driving, we implemented many sophisticated systems to lower the deaths of teenagers. And these systems have been proven to work. Our country needs to do the same thing now with social media. We need to implement a social media training plan. You've heard the slogan, click it or ticket, in regards to driving and seatbelts. If we can teach our teens the right kind of clicking for driving on the real highway, then we can teach them the right kind of clicking for driving on the information highway. Please, give us teens the keys to success for driving on the information highway, and we will thank you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nolan. I don't know about you all, but I'm already being challenged by both of these speeches, and I know will continue to be. This is important stuff. All right. This next speaker that I'm going to bring up, Rachel Lynn, but I'm going to say your name, Rachel, in my normal celebratory way, is going to take her talents to Chapel Hill in the fall. Yes, I'm Chapel Hill. Great. Go give it up for Chapel Hill. Yes. Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred. When I die, I'll be Tar Heel dead. You know it is. Where she will study mathematics and computer science. She's a senior at Jack Britt High School. Please welcome to the stage, Rachel Lynn.
You probably heard or thought the statement, the government sucks. I mean, just look at this graph from pewresearch.org. The graph shows the public trust in government starting in 1960 to 2022. As you can see, approximately 75 Americans say that they trust the government to do what's right in 1960. That's really high. But then you see that big drop after 1965. After that, trust in government kept declining and remained low for most of the 21st century. This decline in our trust in government, according to the National Library of Medicine, or NIH.gov, last accessed on April 1st, 2023, stems from our negative perception of the economy, scandals associated with Congress, and increasing public concern about crime. If we distrust the government so much, we need to make sure we are informed of what our government is doing, so that we may hold them accountable. Knowledge is our best defense against ignorance. If we continue to remain ignorant, we become more susceptible to governmental control, in which one day we will be made to believe 2 + 2 makes 5, and we will know otherwise. It's a possibility that we cannot ignore. So, I did some research, and I'm here today to inform you of what I've learned. We must stay informed and involved in our government, so that we are the ones leading rather than being led. First, we'll talk about the problems of being uninformed about our government. Second, we'll talk about how we can stay educated and involved. Let's begin with the problems of being uninformed about our government. If we remain ignorant to what our government does, we'd never know what to think for ourselves. According to govinfo.gov, last updated on March 2nd, 2016, James Madison once said, "A popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, or perhaps both." Knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. James Madison is warning us about the dangers of ignorance, but unlike his time, we have readily access to information with just a touch of our cell phones. Yet, we don't take the time to inform ourselves. So, I'll be talking about a few of the problems of being uninformed. First, policies are constantly being added and adjusted that many of us don't know about, and for some, we may not even agree with. For instance, according to BadgerHerald.com, last updated on April 25th, 2017, on March 28th, Trump signed an executive order dismantling Obama's climate change protections. To be more specific, that executive order was struck down the Clean Power Plan. In the words of New York Times last updated on September 25th, 2016, if the plan is struck down, the United States, the world's largest carbon polluters over the centuries, will lose its main tool to remove greenhouse gas emissions. It doesn't just stop there. According to WashingtonPost.com, last updated on June 9th, 2020, the Trump administration is ending a 5-year ban on the practices, which includes shooting swimming caribou from a boat and targeting animals from airplanes and snowmobiles. What's more, with the end of the ban, hunters will be able to bait bear traps, killing denning bear cubs and wolf pups, as well as use various methods that are condemned by the environment and wildlife protection groups. Many Americans don't know about these changes yet many of these policies can greatly impact our nation. Second, we're constantly exposed to fake news. You probably heard the phrase fake news before, but let me tell you what actually is. Fake news are fabricated stories that are intended to mislead us, and some of these stories can be propaganda. Here's an example. According to libguides.com, last updated on March 21st, 2023, in 2016, a story circulated that Pope Francis made an unprecedented and shocking endorsement of Donald Trump for president. Its title states, "Pope Francis shocks world, endorses Donald Trump for president, releases statement." If you saw this for the first time, you'd probably believe it. It even went viral in 2016, but it's fake. According to factcheck.org, last updated on October 24th, 2016, the website that published the article, WTOE5 News, owns up to being a fake news website. in its About page. WTOE5 News is a fancy news website, it says. It also wasn't the first time the Pope was involved in a fake news article. In the words of ABC10.com, last updated on December 15, 2016, in 2015, another fake website claimed that Pope endorsed Bernie Sanders. We have been spoon-fed with this warped sense of reality. We begin to believe events that has never occurred. Lies became our perceived truth. But how can you stay informed and involved, especially with fake news everywhere? Well, there are various ways we can stay informed and in turn involved, but we're going to talk about just a few. First, we can stay updated with what's going on in the country by simply utilizing the summaries and notifications from trusted websites or news platforms, such as govtrack.us, causes.com, or any website with a domain .gov. The website state.gov is also a good place to find various selected U.S. government information websites that are both reliable and trustworthy. Second, we can stay informed of what's going on in the country by getting involved in the political issues and processes by attending governmental meetings or watching the live streams of it. By attending the meetings, you get to see what your elected official is stating. Furthermore, according to electionseason.co, last update on January 13, 2020, depending on the meeting, giving public testimony during a public comment period may be a available option. This allows you to tell decision makers your opinion regarding the policy so that you can be involved in the decision-making process. According to YouTube video Crash Course U.S. Government and Politics, last updated on January 23, 2015, you can also call your representatives, or you can simply email them. Last and most importantly, you can get involved by making an informed vote for a representative who you believe will strongly support your concerns and ideas. It is one of the most important ways we can participate in our government. But many Americans believe their vote don't matter. This is untrue. Your vote matters. When you vote, you are taking an active role in deciding issues. As Act Now last accessed on April 3, 2023 writes, if you don't vote, you won't have a say in how our country is run. There is better representation of what we want if more of us voted in each election, for a better life agreed upon by more Americans rather than the few. We have fought for this right, so let's use it for a better community. Now that we are informed, let's conclude this. First, we talked about the problems of being uninformed about our government. Second, we talked about how we can stay educated and involved. So, we must ensure that our system of government stays resilient, protecting our rights and liberties. Like George Orwell once said, freedom is the freedom to say 2 + 2 makes 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much. I don't know about you, but I'm having a good time. Some of you young people got dragged here. You're like, man, they're taking me to a speech competition, but it's actually thrilling. It's interesting. And one day, all my younger folks, you could be up here as well. Well, our next speaker is also from the land of the mighty Buccaneers. Please welcome a woman who is talented, who is a singer, a songstress, as we might say, and who wants to major in dental hygiene and minor in music at UNC Chapel Hill one day. She's a junior at Jack Britt High School. Selah Apollo!
Serena Williams, the 23 Grand Slam winning tennis champion, an inspiration to millions around the world, dead at age 35. Cause of death, a blood clot in her lungs that she contracted after childbirth. Now, the doctor said that there was absolutely no sign of a blood clot until, wait a minute. That's not how the story goes. For Williams apparently alerted nurses of extreme discomfort in her chest, and she requested for a CAT scan numerous times. And the nurse's response, I think all that medicine is making you talk crazy. Now, luckily, this isn't how the story goes. For Williams finally got that CAT scan, and lo and behold, it saved her life, as according to an interview published by Elle magazine in 2018. But think for a moment. If someone like Serena Williams had to beg for a CAT scan that saved her life, then imagine how it's like for the everyday Black woman. According to a CDC statistic published in 2021, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women, and they have the most maternal deaths out of all POC women in America. And my mother, an African-American midwife who has been practicing for over a decade, can tell you all about the veracity of this statistic. For she says too many times she has to save Black mothers from their demise because of the inadequate care that they receive from her peers. And unfortunately, there won't always be people like my mother who will save the day or maybe even save you if you decide to start a family. So based off of my research, there's an evident disparity in the amount of Black maternal deaths in America. The factors I'll be discussing are the presence of implicit bias, institutional racism, and non-inclusive Medicaid. So let's first start with implicit bias. According to a testimony provided by my mother, she states that she works at a hospital in an impoverished area filled with a plethora of patients. And so with that, she tells me of the constant ringing of emergency codes and how doctors are constantly on their toes, going from patient to patient, all while doing it cautiously and efficiently. Also common to these areas is the concentration of Black women who live there. For according to a 2021 statistic published by the Center for American Progress, it states that 22.3% of Black women live in poverty. So with almost a quarter of Black women going to these hospitals in these impoverished areas, we can see the negative effects in their health care. For with so many patients, doctors don't have the time or the empathetic nature to give the best quality of care to Black mothers. A comforting atmosphere must be established in order for any patient to feel comfortable in addressing their concerns to their doctor. But when a Black woman sees that her doctor is too busy and can't even take time to sit down and get to know her story, then she'll deem it's unnecessary to voice her concerns. And so being more likely to receive inadequate health care isn't where this problem stops. For we even see, and it's also even worse to hear, that African American women already face a higher risk when it comes to giving birth because of the existence of institutional racism, which I'll be talking about next. First, we'll be talking about the effects of redlining. The National Institute of Children's Health website, last access in 2023, states that this was a process in the 1930s that refused secure mortgages to areas that were predominantly Black, leading to the shutting down of important facilities like hospitals, grocery stores, and health clinics. And yes, this process is illegal now, but you still see the effects today, for these areas still don't have nearly as many health clinics as affluent neighborhoods, and they're more prone to be economically disadvantaged. Another aspect to institutional racism is the effects of generational trauma. In an article published in 2020 on the National Women's Health Network website, it states that during the Jim Crow era, selective reproduction was a primary motive in performing thousands of unmerited hysterectomies on Black women, with doctors such as Marion Sims performing these procedures without anesthesia. And so with these horrific statistics and stories, this has inevitably caused Black women to be more distrusting of doctors before they even step foot into a hospital. And so now we're looking at fewer institutions, less money, and greater mistrust amongst doctors. So even with all that I said so far, you may be thinking, well, why aren't Black women just more assertive in their doctor's visits? But what if they can't even afford to take that step? And yes, you may point your fingers to services like Medicaid, and it has helped 65% of Black women, according to a 2000 study published by We Journal. But its policies are nearly as inclusive to help all the lower income Black women who need these benefits. According to Medicaid's policies, you can only avail yourself to it if you are 133% below the poverty line. This means that there's a plethora of Black women who need the benefits of Medicaid, but they simply don't qualify. And so no insurance means missing out on prescriptions, screenings that can detect early health complications, and tracking the health of your unborn child, leading to that CDC statistic that we saw earlier. And so now that we know that this disparity against Black mothers exists, we know that it's not just an issue, it's a public health crisis. So it's not enough just for us to actuate this problem, we need to take action. And so I'll be talking about some wide-scale initiatives and some personal-scale initiatives that we can leave within this room to combat this statistic. First, we can implement a required class in medical and nursing schools that's centered on the omission of implicit bias. Its curriculum will teach healthcare providers about common stereotypes and how these stereotypes harm the health of the patient. With the ridding of these stereotypes, the class will further go in depth on communication strategies that allow a close relationship between doctor and patient, allowing for comfortability to be established and to know the knowledge of a patient's struggle. Next, we can advocate for legislators who want to expand the qualifications of Medicaid. As of now, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention released in 2022 that out of 100,000 deaths, 44 Black women die. However, the American Rescue Plan Act combats this statistic by extending Medicaid benefits 12 months after birth and extending the qualifications of Medicaid. And according to a 2021 study published by USC, the study found that among 32 states that took on this act, they saw 12 fewer deaths than Black women per 100,000 births, showing how it is very effective. Next, what we can do as individuals is educate ourselves and our loved ones about this vast disparity, especially if they're a childbearing Black mother. For by educating ourselves and spreading awareness, Black mothers are more knowledgeable about their increased risk and thus preventing them to be part of that statistic. For they know the symptoms of early health complications and they know the signs of malpractice. And also what we should do is that we should be a circle of support for these Black mothers and support them when they address concerns about their health and not make them feel crazy about it. And yes, you may think these are simple steps, but they are grand. And the fact that Black women are better equipped in their rebuttal against implicit bias and malpractice. So today, we all gained some insight about the extent of the Black maternal mortality disparity and how we can fight against it. We did this by learning the components of this disparity and some wide scale and some personal scale initiatives that we can all take. By educating ourselves, we can better understand not only how to improve the conditions of motherhood for Black mothers, but the conditions of motherhood for all in this country. And so it's time that we break this recurring trial, and that can only happen by the support of each of you in this room. So I urge you all, as of today, break the curse and save the Black mother.
Thank you, Selah. Selah, excuse me. I said I was going to say Selah. Thank you. Yes, you took the clicker. I mean, just ownership, empowered. I'm taking the clicker. Thank you, Selah, very much. And our last speaker of the night, and I hope you are like me thinking, there's not more? These are great. I want more. We have a last speaker. This young lady is coming all the way to us from not the land of the Buccaneers, but the land of the Pirates. Arr! Representing Massey Hill Classical High School today, we have, let me go this way. There we go. We have a young lady who is a gamer, who is also an artist, and quite the funny person as well. Please welcome to the stage, Emily Schaefer.
All right. First of all, I just want to say that I'm getting over being sick, so if my voice isn't that great and if I have to take a few cough breaks, that's on me. I'm sorry about that. All right. So to begin this speech, I will be reading some Google reviews on the game The Last of Us 2. The game seems to evolve around a lot of female characters. The game tries to express women with empowerment in a misandrist way. There are homosexual women, a large muscular woman, pregnant woman, and a 13-year-old girl who wants to be identified as a boy. Feminism is in it. At least I think there is. I could be wrong. Abby, as the game shows her, has the body of a man and is shown to be tougher than most men. The only people who love this game and write the words, "a beautiful, greatly told story," are the liberal morons who think being a lesbian or being a transgender is okay. And that's what this game is saying. So basically, every white, straight male are the true villains. I don't know if that was Hallie Gross's idea or what, but it was easily noticed. Ellie was such an appreciated little girl, but now she's a lesbian. Why? That's stupid. What happened to getting immune children? Is being gay even an option when everyone is dead? All right, so I'm sure that we can agree. I'm sure that we can agree that those reviews were a little silly, whether it be the grammar or the actual message that they're spreading. I personally played this game last year. I thought it was incredible, and even though I've heard a lot of bad things about it, So I want to talk about why this game is so good and why you can't trust all the bad reviews. The Last of Us 2 is a 2020 sequel to the wildly popular game and TV show The Last of Us, which follows Joel and Ellie across the country. Ellie, the girl, is immune to the zombie apocalypse that is happening, so they're traveling across the country to get her to a hospital to have a cure created from whatever is causing these zombies. However, we find out that Ellie has to die for this cure to be created, so Joel ends up killing everyone in the hospital and escaping with her. The main subject of the first The Last of Us game is the friendship and connection that forms between not only Joel and Ellie, but the player, which is why it was such a shock and why everyone got so angry when an hour into the second game, Joel dies. The game previews were purposely misleading, with the developers seeming as if the game was going to focus more on the relationship of Joel and Ellie. However, people got even more angry when about halfway through the second game, you switch perspectives and you have to play as the character of Abby, the one who killed Joel. What you learn when playing as Abby is according to Ryan Bonfie and Ellie's journal in 2022, even though many people pinpoint Abby as a character who does not align with their goals, The Last of Us Part 2 strongly suggests that Ellie and Abby are extremely alike. Both characters have very comparable goals regarding their revenge, and story-wise, their losses and experiences are incredibly similar. This is due to a huge revenge plot that progresses in the game, which I will talk about a little later. A major point in The Last of Us 2 is, as stated by Brandon Keogh in 2020 in his article The Rest of Us, that this isn't your story, it's the characters. You're just along for the ride. You're not even a single actor anymore, but more akin to a camera person watching the story unfold. Many people are upset that you're forced to play as Abby for a very short time at the beginning of the game to kill Joel, and are later forced to fight to the death with Ellie later, but fail to realize that a very significant and meaningful part of The Last of Us 2 is that you are unable to make decisions or go against the story that is written. You either accept that the characters are human and have major flaws, or you turn the game off. As shown in a study on frontiers in psychology conducted by Valerie Erb, Sion Lee, and Young-Yim Do in 2021 on how game satisfaction occurs in those who play The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2. They created this infographic with those unable to accept changes in the character they play, the focus of the story, and in how they perceive Abby, end up strongly disliking the story, and the exact opposite being true for those who are able to accept change in the game and in themselves. Basically, if you can't handle change, you can't handle Abby or the game of The Last of Us 2, so take that as you will. Now on to a more in-depth discussion of the point that I showed in the form of Google reviews at the beginning of the speech. Many people dislike the game for political reasons, which include multiple LGBTQ characters and a strong, muscular woman. As you saw earlier, a lot of people seem to want to find something wrong with the game, whether it's a gay character or two, and most appalling, a strong, masculine woman proudly being strong and masculine. Ellie, the main character, is a lesbian with a bisexual girlfriend. Abby also ends up meeting a boy named Lev, who is cast out from his religious cult due to being transgender. There's not much to say about how ignorant it is to judge a game extremely negatively based on the inclusion of 3 LGBTQ characters, so I'll move on. Lots of people are also angry at Abby, who is a very strong, athletic, and muscular woman, instead of being skinnier and more conventionally attractive like Ellie is, which is very obviously rooted in misogyny and men expecting women in media to sexually appeal to them. It's a very common thing in gaming communities for men to be sexist towards women, which is shown in statistics like those given by Sirene Bogacha in her 2022 article on ivolunteer.org, which says that 20% of female gamers have experienced sexual harassment in the form of rape or death threats, and 59% of women have to hide their gender while gaming online. Now, obviously, Abby is not a real human that is experiencing harassment online by men, but there's a very strong correlation between misogyny and sexualization of real and fake women. Laura Bailey and Jocelyn Mettler, the voice and face actor for Abby, actually were harassed and threatened so much after the game's release that they both had to leave social media for a very long time. As the results state in a 2019 study by Mona Voges and Manuel Waldorf, Gender Differences in Body Evaluation, men devalue non-ideal bodies and upvalue ideal bodies, whereas women more rate in a fair-minded manner. This hatred of more masculine women and this main character, due to her strength and muscle mass, seems to happen often, with the same treatment being given to another game character named Aloy, who made people upset for having facial hair and not being feminine enough. Now that we've established why people hate The Last of Us 2 so much, I'm going to talk about why I love the game and I think everyone should give it a chance. I like it for a lot of the reasons that all of these people hate it, and because the storytelling is genius and very well done through the gameplay. Now, I appreciate The Last of Us 2 for doing what other games are scared to, most likely knowing the backlash that they would get, which is by having multiple LGBTQ characters and a very strong muscular woman as a protagonist. And maybe the fact that people hate it so much makes me like it a little bit more. I love how the game speaks on this cycle of revenge and violence, with Abby killing Joel due to him killing her dad, and then Ellie trying to kill Abby due to her killing Joel. Once the game end is reached, Ellie and Abby are both physically and mentally broken as they try to kill each other. And when Ellie is about to kill Abby, she has a flashback to Joel's murder, spares her, and returns home to find it empty, with her girlfriend and their child nowhere to be seen. Ellie, who lost 2 fingers during that final fight with Abby, is unable to play the song that Joel taught her on guitar, ultimately losing the very last thing that she has left of him. The idea that constant need for violence and revenge eventually leads you to losing yourself and everything you have is a very powerful one. And as MLK said, an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. Revenge being dangerous and not worth it is also very topical, with psychologist Michelle Gelfand stating in her 2019 article, "Revenge is bittersweet at best." In the US, desire for revenge has been implicated in over 60% of school shootings and over a quarter of bombings. The idea that good and evil are a binary is also very discredited in The Last of Us 2, with everyone who plays initially hating Abby for beating Joel to death. But once we learn that Joel's violent and irrational actions are the reason that Abby's dad is dead, we're able to sympathize with her more and understand that Joel is not as good of a person as we want him to be. The same thing happens with Ellie, but flipped a little bit. In the first game, she's an innocent 14-year-old girl that we just want to love and protect. But in the second game, we see her as a grown woman, murdering pregnant women, dogs, and too many innocents to count. As Clancy Martin states in Are Humans Good or Evil in 2014, to be good is to have some genuinely selfless motivations. Both characters getting revenge and risking their lives doing it for someone that they cared about who was now dead could easily be seen as selfless, but the way they go about it, by killing hundreds or thousands of people, is probably also seen as evil. The gameplay is also very fun in this game. I have played the 25-hour game 2 times for a total of 50 hours, except you do have to kill dogs in it, so maybe don't play it if you don't want to do that. In summary, The Last of Us 2 is an incredible game with a great message and storytelling, despite what a lot of nitpickers and bigots have to say about it. So, right after this is over, go home, buy a PS5, buy both The Last of Us games, and play them right now. You won't regret it.
Thank you, Emily. I have a history in sales. We teach our students you got to ask for the business. So you've been asked for the business by 5 brilliant, bright scholars. Let's give them all one more round of applause. May, Lynn, Nolan, Pate, Rachel, Lynn, Selah, Apollo, and Emily Schaefer. You all are exceptional. Thank you for sharing. And we're going to give the judges a time to chew on a whole lot of stuff and decide who they think are the top speakers of the day. So we will break for the judges to convene. We will also ask you all to take a break, breathe, congratulate each other, celebrate each other because you did a great job. Have some snacks in the back. And all of you all, folks in the room, are not off the hook. Please grab your audience choice document. Think about each of the speeches that you heard, and they are listed in the order in which they spoke. And circle, just put a big circle around your top choice. We will have our faculty ready. I've got Dr. Dwarko Ramphal over here. I've got James O.T. Sanders III there. I've got Kenny Smythe back there in the back. And then over here we've got Brenda Mitchell. They will collect your ballots. So, you're not going to, no. You're collecting, okay, she's connected. That's even more valuable. She'll collect it. And I've got Leslie Corpening there as well. So Professor Leslie Corpening, Professor James O.T. Sanders, Professor Dr. David Nays, and Professor Kenny Smythe in the back, Dr. Dwarko Ramphal. Also, as we get ready, I do want us to remind everybody that we have our Toastmasters participating. They sponsor this event. They also have some Toastmasters information out there. So for those of you who want to learn how to become better speakers like these folks, you can practice, you can polish, you can meet new people and network. We're just starting up here at Fayetteville Tech. We're really excited about that. Also want to give a shout out for the General Shelton Leadership Camp at Methodist University. This summer, June 11th through 16th, there's a summer camp for high school students. So if you have a high school student or you are a high school student, you'd be interested in learning more about leadership and participating in the leadership camp, please do take a flyer from over there. And let's welcome our judges back one more time. Welcome back. Thank you all. Thank you for your hard work. And then once we get the students, we'll have the students come on back. I see some in the back. There's no one there. Y'all come up to the front. Matter of fact, you can sit with your friends and your family right now. No, actually come up front so we'll quickly get you up here. And then you can go back and celebrate. Then you can go back and celebrate and bask from there. Needless to say, there were chewed fingernails and sweaty brows in the judging room. That was some great speaking, and it was very difficult for them to deliberate and find out who the top winners were. Everybody here is certainly a winner, and I don't mean that in the, hey, 10th place gets a trophy award away. I mean, you all are exceptional in your own rights, and we are grateful to have had you voted here. But first, the people have spoken. So, for all of our judges out there in the community, our People's Choice Award, we'd like to welcome to the stage the youngest in the crew, Nolan Page. The people love you, Nolan. The people love you. So what you're going to do is you're going to come right to this spot over here, and we are going to have you. I'm going to put up I'll put up this logo so if you can take a nice photo op. So we'll have you next to Rachel, Mrs. Rion, who is our coordinator for the event. We'll do the take, shake, salute for those of you who've been in the military. And Nolan will be going home with a $25 Amazon card, which he will, well done, which he will very carefully use as he carefully navigates the information highway. All right. Yes, we're going to start with the finalists. So we also want to, there we go. Now, it's our time to celebrate all of these speakers, and we will start off with our finalists. We have 3 finalists, and then we have our runner-up and our champion. The first finalist, and not in any particular order with these finalists, is Rachel Lynn. Come on up, Rachel. Come on up, Rachel. Rachel Lynn will get a healthy gift card and this wonderful certificate. Well done. Well done, Rachel. The next finalist we like to celebrate is Emily Schaefer. The next finalist we'd like to celebrate is May Lynn. And for our FayTech TALKS runner-up 2023, the people love him, I guess the judges did too, Nolan Page!
They have rules. Make them all the same. Good job.
And ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, apparently the revolution will not be televised, but it will be in doctor's offices across this nation because of this amazing advocate and scholar. Please welcome Sayla Apollo, your FayTech TALKS champion. The champion for the night. Congratulations, Sayla. We want to thank everyone here. This is the end of the semester. You have finals. You have so much to think about. This was one more stressor, and you took it on. You were courageous. In spite of the fear, in spite of whatever speaking anxiety we all have, you pressed into it. That makes every one of you a hero to me. So thank you all so much. One more round of applause for our wonderful finalists. One person that we as a Fayetteville Technical Community College Communication Department faculty team want to recognize, as well as one who would prefer not to be recognized, but hey, you know, we want to celebrate her. She's a quiet professional who has put her heart and her soul into this. I will just tell you, she and I both started here in 2020 in the midst of a pandemic, both new faculty members in our first full-time jobs as faculty. I was a lot older, so a little more secure. I'd been in the military, things like that, and I was talking to her one day, and she said, you know, we used to do this campus-wide speech competition at another place where I taught, and I thought, that's cool, let's try it. She was like, really? I was like, yeah. And before you knew it, it took some time. We had to develop, we had to get through a pandemic. She kept with that dream, and thanks to her and to Lucas Hanna, another colleague that worked with her on it last year, she pressed into it. And this year, she looked at all the work that had to be done, and she looked at all of the challenges that were going to be before her, technological, financial, et cetera, and she said yes. And we're grateful that she said yes, because this has been an exceptional night. So let's give a round of applause to Rachel Rion. Come on down, Rachel. We got something special for you. So I mentioned earlier, Mr. William Parrish from the bookstore was gracious enough to print all of the T-shirts that you see. You've seen some T-shirts around. So the logo was developed by Caney Hunter. He printed the T-shirts for us for free. This is the silk screen that he put together for us in his own personal time to donate for this event. And Rachel, we want to give it to you to hang up as a tribute. Can I get a picture with it? Come on. Yes, come on.
Oh, thanks. I once again want to thank our judges for tonight. We went back in the judging room and they're enthusiastic, and they were like, how can we help you fund this and expand it, which is one of our challenges this year. I also want to thank all of the communication department. Last year this was really successful, and that's daunting to have something be successful your first year. You'd rather start something small your first year and then just be like, oh, here's what we can do to make it better. And then Lucas left. Not only was he my best friend that I've had here at this workplace, but he was the logistical mind behind it. I just did what he told me. I'm more the person who wakes up in like cold sweats having nightmares about not printing certificates. And so I was nervous. Some people asked, maybe we could do it in the fall and the spring, and I said, absolutely not. I said, absolutely not. And as the semester began in September, my dad died, a Labor Day weekend when I was visiting him. And then in December, my grandmother died. And I thought, I do not want to do this. I don't even want to be at work right now. I just want to get through the day. And my colleagues, going to work was the best thing for them. There are things that I might complain about at work, but the communication team that I work with, I cannot imagine working with better people. There is not a single one of them that I could imagine working without. They are the most energetic, funny, caring human beings. I complain because we celebrate everyone's birthday. There's 9 full-time faculty. You know, I have baked cheesecake a lot of times so far, right? But you need to understand that these are my best friends. These are people who I asked them to do anything related to this project, and they empowered me to feel comfortable that I could do it. Along with my supervisors like Daniela Newland and Kimwana McCrae, I felt completely supported. 16 days ago, I had knee surgery, and Kenny and James were in my house bringing me candy, right? They were like, what can we do for you? And that is the only thing that makes this possible. I could not do this without them. And I am so thankful to all of them for being all the things that I am not. And I am really thankful to all of you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you all next year.
I'm the crybaby. She makes me cry a lot. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you, you brilliant scholars. I'll close with this. As Rachel said earlier, one of the greatest fears that any of us faces is the fear of public speaking. We all get anxious about it, even those of us who teach it. And the best thing you can do is press through it with courage. And every one of you did that today in front of a room full of, in some cases, strangers, people who were judging you, and you still pressed through and you told your truth, and you told it passionately and artfully and beautifully and humorously and what was judiciously. I'm thinking about governmental terms, right? And we want to thank you for that. So for all of you who are thinking, I could never do what those kids did. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I want to give you a little poem to finish you off, and then we'll send you home. And this poem is a poem that's called The Thing That Couldn't Be Done by Albert G. Best, one of the best poets of our American tradition. He said this: somebody said that it couldn't be done, but she with a chuckle replied, well, maybe it couldn't, but she would be one who wouldn't say till she tried. So with a lift of her chin and a bit of a grin, refusing to doubt it or quit it, she started to sing as she tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and she did it. Somebody scoffed, you can never do that, or at least no one ever had done it. So he took off his hat, and he took off his coat, and the next thing you know, he'd begun it. With the lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, refusing to doubt it or quit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands who will tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands who will prophesy failure. There are thousands who will point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But with the lift of your chin and a bit of your grin, just take off your hat and go to it. Start in to sing as you tackle the thing that couldn't be done, and you do it, 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 and you do it. And please, for the good of this world, please keep doing it. God bless you all. Thanks for coming out. We hope to see you next year.